The Tojolabal village of Benito Juarez is located in the Eusebio River Valley in the eastern lowlands. Bill DeBoer and I were appointed to witness the organization of the Benito Juarez congregation as a mother church. Accompanying us was Francisco Gomez, a Tojolabal evangelist of Las Margaritas. A 3-hour drive brought us to the village of Veracruz, where we were met by 3 guides from Benito Juarez. The trail began with a swinging bridge. Bill is finding that walking over the bridge with someone else on it made the crossing more bouncy. We all eventually made it safely across. It had been raining, and the steep hills were slippery, and some of the trail was sticky clay. 2 hours later, we could see the slot in the final ridge. Before the ridge, we crossed the Eusebio River, using another swinging bridge. On this one, they went one by one. Francisco in the blue shirt is waiting his turn. One disadvantage of these bridges is that the cables were barbed wire, so that you couldn't hold on very tight. The climb up from the river was very steep and included some ladders made from logs with notches for steps. Francisco is glad that he is getting near the top. Before the worship service, the Benito Juarez congregation gathered for a photograph. Standing closest to us is Celtal pastor Martin Hernandez, who was serving as the pastor of the congregation. He lived in the village of San Quentin, located on the other side of the ridge in the background. At the beginning of the service, he greeted all those present, and he administrated the communion service. Local Tojolabal elders served communion to the congregation. This Celtal group had come over the ridge from the village of Agua Sarga to join in the celebration. They provided some of the special music. They sang in Celtal, so the service was a mixture of 3 languages, Tojolabal, Spanish, and Celtal. This musical group came from the pastor's village of San Quentin. And then this local trio sang. Playing the accordion is Raul Mendez, a Tojolabal elder who had studied at the Celtal Bible School and was now taking classes at the John R. Kemper's Seminary. With him is a brother and a brother-in-law. Even the younger generation of Tojolabals had a musical group, and an even younger generation. Pastor Martin read the liturgy for the ordination of 5 new elders. They were ordained by the visiting Celtal elders and the existing Tojolabal elders. This enlarged consistory became responsible for the care of the congregation and its 3 daughter congregations. Elder Raul Mendez preached the sermon. Following the service, the expanded consistory posed for a photograph, as did the believers from the village of Santa Rita, and a group from the village of Perla. Also Enrique and his family, the first believers in the village Tierra y Libertad, land and liberty. Francisco was invited to preach at the evening service. A year later, Raul Mendez completed his studies at the seminary. He displays his diploma at our home in Las Margaritas. That required another trip to Benito Juarez. From the back of a truck, we get this view of the village of Nuevo Momon. The area became increasingly rugged as we headed east into the lowlands. This field of beans and corn clings to the hillside. It is rugged country for farming. Here is another village as seen from the road. Our progress was delayed by a flat tire. The tire was so thin that the threads were showing. Replacing the tire was a messy, muddy job. The truck driver was Francisco's brother. A government bulldozer was extending the road into the jungle, and Francisco's brother was determined to deliver us as far as the road reached. The road became more narrow and steep as we entered the end. We met a family on their way to the village market, and this hill was a real challenge for the truck. We made it to the end of the road, a 3-hour trip of 50 miles. Francisco is on the left, his brother is in the middle. The other 3 are our Tojolabal trail companions. The trail began where the road ended. Horses, mules, and people have made a muddy mess of the trail. We picked our way along the edge so that we wouldn't get stuck in the mud. It was hard to get by the narrow spots. The horses and mules made what looked like stair steps in the trail. When you can't go around it, you do go through it. Alongside the trail was a small spring where some villagers get their water. That gave us the opportunity to have a bite to eat and some water to drink. And then it started to rain, a drenching downpour. That did not improve the trail. This was an intersection where the trails from Benito Juarez and Realidad met. The trail narrowed as we neared Benito Juarez. A slippery log over a small stream was a real challenge. Francisco needed help for the final steps. We finally reached the Eusebio River, crossing it on a swinging bridge. Benito Juarez village was a welcome sight. At the service there was lots of good music again, with Raul singing and accompanying a local choral group. There was another singing group from the nearby village of Santa Rita. Raul's brother, now an elder of the church, welcomed all the visitors. Pastor Francisco Gomez, the veteran Celtal pastor from Corralito, was a member of the ordination committee. He and another Francisco Gomez of Triunfo had flown in from Ocosingo. Francisco read the liturgy in preparation for Raul's ordination, with the questions addressed to Raul. Then the other Francisco read the part that addressed the congregation, asking if they were all supportive of Raul's ordination and installation as their pastor. Then the 3 Celtal ministers ordained Raul. Continuing on, they began a communion service, beginning with prayer. And Raul served communion for the first time. He personally served communion to the elders of the congregation and the visiting ministers, and later pronounced the benediction. Then it was time for family photographs, first of Raul and his father, then with his wife and 3 sons, and 2 of his sons are now ordained ministers, and another with Raul's 5 brothers. The next day, instead of having us walk out on the muddy trail, they signaled a plane flying over to San Quentin with a piece of aluminum roofing, hoping that there would be room for us on his return. On the edge of the airstrip were the remains of a government airplane that had supplied their Konosupo store. It had come in too low and had crashed on the strip. The first plane to arrive was one from Ocosingo to pick up the two Celtal pastors. They eagerly headed for the waiting airplane. In less than half an hour, they would land in Ocosingo. And later, our plane would land and take us up on a half-hour flight to Comitan on our way home.